Forces shaping governance, policies, and power. From the halls of government.
You were there. I was not there. Check the record. Wait now. I was not there.
To the voices of the people.
We are suffering. This suffering is too much. It's too much. Look at the students. There's no job. They're feeling school. There's no job for them.
We analyze the undercurrents, expose the intrigues, and break down the narratives that define our democracy. Dr. Tony Olisa Mbeki delivering razor-sharp analysis, and Ebuka Franklin and Chisom on the question wheel, driving the conversation. We bring you the most compelling discussions on governance, policies, and power plays. Stay informed, stay engaged, stay ahead. The Polity, every weekdays at 9:15 a.m. Exclusive on Udala 104.7 FM Onitsha.
And of course, Wednesday saw the collapse of a building around Prince Chinedu Akwaka streets in Akbaka GRA here in Onitsha. And Thursday saw the collapse of another building in Oka. Thursday also saw the demolition of about 17 buildings in Lagos State. And of course, other emerging stories from the political scene speaking about the ADC asking people who have joined the party on grounds of a coalition to officially resign membership in their respective parties and join the ADC. All of those and more we're going to be taking a look at today on the Polity. Good morning to you and welcome. This is Udala Radio 104.7 FM, and of course on the Polity we take a look at happenings in and around the nation, make sense of them, and my name is Chisom Chinedu. I won't be doing this alone. Franklin Ebuka is here, and of course Dr. Tony Olisa Mbeki is also here to do justice to the analysis. Good morning, Franklin.
Good morning, Chisom, and good morning to everybody listening to us. Don't forget that you can always join us on this very conversation live on our Facebook page, Udala Radio 104.7 FM. You want to check us out on Instagram and YouTube, Udala Radio. We're also live on Instagram, and then on X you can also join this very conversation with Udala Radio. So we have all these platforms to further this very conversation. And just like you mentioned about a couple of things that actually happened in some places, the building collapse that happened in Anambra State, one in Onitsha, one in Oka, it's quite sad, because from time to time when we get to hear about this building collapse, of course it gives us concerns. And each time that people who are authorities get to do their investigations of what led to the collapse, we get to find that the issues of maybe poor engineering, poor building materials, and what have you. Then what we want to see is that where we get to see some kind of enforcement where the laws enabling establishment or structure should be obeyed, to the last letters. Then let me just really go to Imo State, where the State House of Assembly decided to move to make a law that is going to prohibit medical doctors from detaining patients who fail to clear their medical bills. I saw that very bill. On the surface, it looks like they are thinking about the people, but if you're going to dig deep into it to analyze it better, you see that they might end up creating more problems than what they're trying to solve. But the good thing is that the bill just passed second reading and it's been referred to a committee, and from what I gathered from the speaker, is going to be subjected to public hearing. So at that very stage, of course, stakeholders will be given the opportunity for them to offer input into that very bill to know whether it's going to scale the hurdle or becoming a law. But I just want them to be circumspect when it comes to making such a law, knowing that there's a kind of law you can make, and it's going to have anti-effect on society. So let's not let the cat out of the bag entirely.
Absolutely.
And then by the time get to conversations, we unveil other things we have.
Dr. Tony Olisa Mbeki, good morning to you.
Good morning, Chisom. Good morning, Nigerians. Good morning, the good people of Southeast. Good morning, the Anambra. Good morning, the Onitsha. Good morning, everyone under the reach of our voice. We're back in our sanctuary. We're here to talk about developing stories and also enlighten you more, and then look at these issues objectively as much as we can. And we believe that through the mercy of God Almighty, who made it possible for us to be here, we are going to do justice to that. You're welcome.
And of course, we're going to go straight to telling you what the front pages say this morning. We have the Nation, Vanguard, Punch, and the Guardian newspapers. And on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper, why apathy dogs voter registration in Southeast, South. This story is on page 5. And looking at the chart here, the Southeast has the lowest turnout in the past 5 weeks. 76,493 online voters, 22,991 online voters. When we get into the conversation proper, we're going to be juxtaposing this with what is obtainable in the north, in the south, in the southwest, and the northwest, and the northeast, in the north central, and the south. And I was really amazed to find out that over there in the north, online pre-registration had 3,190,007 registrants online. Isn't it weird for a place that is supposedly technically backward? Big question for people in the south is to answer right there, and especially when we start to have conversations about marginalization, about representation. We really need to start showing workings. We need to start showing that we are really involved in the scheme of things. Traders lament as Lagos State government demolishes 19 buildings at Trade Fair Plaza. 19 buildings, okay. That's on page 7. Excitement in Ibadan as Ladoja sends throne today on page 6. ADC to members, quit other parties now on page 8. Blackout averted as electricity workers shelve strike after FG's intervention on page 9. 2026 WCQ, more worries as for Chile is Onyedika suffers injury. That's on the sports column. You see the story on page 7. But above the nameplate of the paper, Nigeria attracts $19.92 billion investment signals in Q2 2025. The story is on page 19. Mosop, others reject Tinubu's or resumption in Ogoni. This is on page 12, where consultations not made properly before talks about this resumption were brought to the fore. And of course, I asked the question yesterday. Has Ogoni been taken care of? The damages from the past, have they been taken care of before you start asking that more be done in Ogoni land? And if we're not careful, this is going to snowball into another round of militancy or probably worse. Tinubu promotes 52,000 paramilitary officers in 2 years, Interior Minister on page 8. And finally, on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper, DMO offers 200 billion naira FGN bonds for subscription on page 19.
Of course, the kick from Mosopi was expected because when issues like this is about to start, of course, people who had been at the forefront of the agitation, there's no way you wouldn't expect them to make some hunger because I can make a mad and before must how to deal with the issues that they want to be addressed. Then let's get to the Punch newspaper to see the headlines. We have this one that says, in a gears up for off-cycle polls, promotes 471 officers. The story is on page 7 beside the nameplate. Banner headline, 2027 presidency, coalition demands Atiku Obi's full membership. APC others push back as coalition, direct members to abandon parties for ADC. That's the rider. The story is on page 2 of Punch newspaper. Ladoja sends Olubado throne. You can see the riders there. Ladoja's 32-year journey to throne, and that one says marking the court short annually for coronation. Tinubu top dignitaries to attend historic ceremony. Once governor, now monarch, Ladoja's royal story. While Ladoja's emergence was rancor-free, Balogun designates. And the last rider says Olubado's unique succession system. The story is on pages 19, 20, 21. 32 and 38, and I must say that Ibadan is going to back up today because even Mr. President is expected. And guess what? If Atiku comes there, it will be an assembly of the ruling party and the opposition party. And guess what?
Crossed.
Of course, they will see him present himself and laugh. And then, the moment they leave there, they continue with their kicks.
When I tell you no two politicians are permanent enemies, people still argue. But I think what is going on between El Rufai and Peter Obi, I mean, if you have not been following the history, this alone is enough to tell you to please go and sit down. They will make up. And I promise you, you would not be remembered in the scheme of things.
And
it's unfortunate, but that's the truth.
You mentioned P2P, and my mind ran to what I saw this very morning on X, and I was worried. Full-fledged Nigerian youth were on X, talking about whether P2P wished her wife happy birthday or not. And that was the concern.
You mean Oluremi Tinubu?
No, whether P2P wished his wife happy birthday or not. They were asking, why would he go to wish Tinubu happy birthday, and made some remark regarding the project that he was embarking upon, whereas on the birthday of his wife there was no happy birthday. And I was asking myself, so this is the biggest challenge these people have in Nigeria now. Okay. All right, so other headlines we have on Punch newspaper. This one says 804 billion arms imports ignites calls for local production. The story is on page 81. Southeast governors pushing for Nnamdi Kanu's release. OT had a media chat yesterday where he talked about the moves they are making to ensure that Kanu is released, but he didn't give details because he said it's not something meant for the public. The story is on page 15. Niger Delta militancy made Jonathan's presidency possible. I take a term. He's the one who said so. The story is on page 15. Marketers fault Dangote's 500,000 liter fuel delivery threshold. The story is on page 44. I don't know if you have seen this story that Dangote refinery sacked some workers just 24 hours after they joined Pengasin, and they are saying that this could be another crisis brewing in the oil and gas sector. Then this one says 6 hospitalized as Lagos sees collapsed 2-story building. The story is on page 4 and 5 of Punch newspaper, and the final one on Punch says open fire forces Delta Lagos Atlanta flight diversion. The story is on page 52.
And of course, we're going to go straight to the conversation at this point. But before then, we are going to take a look at one more paper on our desk this morning. And absolutely, the Nation newspaper is still on our desk this morning, and some of the headlines you'd find here: experts, economists, worst times if reforms pains over. And this is on page 3. It has 2 riders. Manufacturing has stabilized. Gains begin to reach average Nigerians. Well, the average Nigerians are gains beginning to reach you. Contractors yet to buy into concrete road policy. On page 4, why not? Why are we not supervising? Are we going to go ahead and keep constructing roads that would fall to the weather just at the start of every rainy season? NUPRC okays Total Energies deal on page 7. Ibadan stands still for Ladoja's coronation as 44th monarch on page 2. Edo secures $250 million investment at Glasgow Summit on page 28. Amcon sells 34% stake in Unity Bank to Providus Bank on page 7. Defense headquarters: 147 terrorists arrested, dozens killed, 41 kidnapped victims rescued on page 2. Barao Ganduje: others step up plans to displace NMPP in Kano. This is on page 3. Also on page 3, 3 children found dead in father's car boot. Oh my God. Really sad story. Tinted glass. IG warns against extortion. This is on page 4. Warning against extortion. What's the mechanism being set up to make sure that extortion doesn't become the order of the day?
According to Olamide, he will say story for the gods, because this is not the very first time that we have had
I know.
something on this very nature. So let's get over to the headlines on the Gather newspaper. We have the big story, which is on pages 4 and 5. It says economic recovery. Nigeria not broke, but deep fiscal concerns linger. There was a time we had this very debate whether Nigeria is broke, whether Nigeria is financially buoyant. Then this very story says 2027 ADC leaders scramble to fix deep rift as opposition coalition nears collapse. The story is on page 6. Over 6,000 lives lost to religious ethnic conflict, says Polity government. Check page 29. 2027 Ganduje, Jibrin, others vow to retake Kano for Tinubu. The story is on page 3. Would they be able to do that, or we see the governor of Kano State moving over to the APC because he has been an ardent supporter of Mr. President and he has not hidden that? So maybe if Pankoso moves to the APC, of course, he might as well move to the APC. Then look at the chart that is on the front page showing Nigeria's fiscal performance overview, the debt service to revenue ratio, and then revenue and expenditure is on that very front page. From politics to palace, Ladoja's odyssey to Olubado throne. Check page 22 of the Nation, or rather the Gather newspaper. A new study links poverty, transport woes to worsening health in Lagos. Interesting. New study links poverty, transport woes to worsening health in Lagos. Just imagine somebody who wakes up in the morning as early as 5 a.m. going to work, and you're on transit for about 3 hours just to cover, a short distance, and you repeat the same thing while going home. It's affecting the lives of people who are living in Lagos. That's what the report is talking about. This one says how Tinubu ended career stagnation in paramilitary service. Check page 2. And the final headline here says blackout averted as electricity workers suspend strike. The story is on page 9. I don't know what it would have been if that's why it wasn't averted by federal government, intervening to bring truce between electricity workers and the likes of TCN and so these are the stories we have on the front pages of newspapers this morning.
And of course, we're going to start off the conversation at this point. We're going to be starting with some of the issues that were raised earlier when we started with the introduction. And so yesterday, another building collapsed in Oka. Before now, I think this particular building is behind the House of Assembly complex in Oka. According to a report by the Punch newspaper, starting off with the Punch newspaper now, it says this is a 3-story building with 4 suspended floors located behind the Anambra State House of Assembly off Ekweme Square, Oka, the Anambra State capital. We also gathered that the building has reached roofing stage. As a matter of fact, roofing started in the building last week, and it suddenly caved in around 11:40 a.m. yesterday. It threw residents and passers-by into panic. Some say there were no casualties, some say there were casualties. Some reports say that people were trapped. Engineers working on site, laborers working on site. Some say some persons were still trapped in the building, while some reports say nobody was trapped. But Tony, you recall, I think it was sometime last year. It was it's also very peculiar during the rainy season. It was like every week, a building will fall. It was at Ochanja. You will have one at Oka, Okboko. Awada, buildings were falling anyhow. And the government swung into action, working on legislation, on enforcement also, to make sure that practices that lead to this are discouraged. But here we have it, 2 in 1 week. I must confess that the frequency has reduced, but we cannot keep counting casualties. We can't keep wasting resources. So I'd like to start with finding out what you think about the causes of these collapses.
It's a very unfortunate incident, very unfortunate scenario. And when we talk about causes of this collapse, I know many of our minds will run to substandard materials, and at the same time we may be talking about quacks who are now overnight engineers who have ventured into the profession, which is noble and something that over the years has proven to be one of the best professions in the world. If you remember great architects and then builders, you understand what I'm saying about, or what I'm talking about, and what I'm saying. It's important to note that when it comes to building collapse in Nigeria, Anambra is number 3. Number 1 is Lagos, which has about over 55% incident, followed by Federal Capital Territory Abuja, which has about over maybe between in percentage 4.29%, and then Anambra ranking 3rd. After Anambra you have Oyo State in building collapse, and after Oyo State you have Kano State. And if you look at these areas, they have one thing in common: high population density, the urge for urbanization, and then urban recreation. So you can understand that, in fact, in 2024 alone, let's leave 2025 out of this equation. In 2024 alone, Lagos had about 12, I think about 13 collapses. FCT had about 6 collapses, and Anambra had about 5 collapses. Kano 4. Even River State joined the queue in 2024. So the whole thing is, we have to go back to the basics. We have to go back to the drawing board, and just as you asked, what are the likely causes of these collapses we have seen over time? And just like we know very well that building collapse is significant public safety and economic challenge, not just in Anambra State but in Nigeria. So we know very well it has been, just like you said, there were times we are falling somewhere. You called, I think you said, the award and all that. But nevertheless, we must also state that building collapses are majorly and principally caused by substandard materials, corruption, poor regulations and oversight, and at the same time quacks taking over the industry. I will let you know that sometimes you may have good sand, you may have good cement, you may have good road, but there are what we call engineering specifications. Most times, if you do not follow the original design plan with certain specifications, with their numbers and figures, what you have is disaster. That's what you're gonna have. And it's not about knowing how to do it or having done it before. Even this kind of work is not just mainly for artisans. Most artisans, you see, many of them, they are just to do the load part of the work. By the time specifications must have been put on ground with the design, and the engineers ask them to just undertake the load part of it, and then they monitor what they do while the load is being put on ground. So when you overload a building, what do you expect? Sometimes 16 mm rod. There are productions, if you test integrity, the material, you find out that it's not 16 mm. It may looks like, but check the quality, check the content. It may be 9 mm, and where the specification says that 16 mm will be used for base reinforcement or concrete reinforcement or what you call it. Imagine where 9 mm that was designed to look like 16 mm. To, the idea of that specification, because you have estimated the load it's the reinforcement we carry. But it happens that the material that will shoulder the load is of lesser quality, lesser specifications. And that's just on the side of materials. What about soil testing? I am aware that Anambra State has a physical planning board. There is no time you build anything here in Anambra State, especially in the urban areas, without you conducting soil tests and also other feasibility studies. These things are done in the laboratories, and you have officers of the government who comes to also ensure that all the T's and I's, T's crossed, I's dotted. But along the line, do they also go to shake those involved in the work? Do they have the necessary certification, qualifications? I'm aware that the Council for Regulation in Engineering, many times they have fallen short of issue of oversight, regulations, and ensuring that these things happen. Nigeria is riddled with corruption, no doubt. And you keep seeing these things from time to time. People have died as a result of this. And it takes people to understand that if you subject a building to things like this, you will spend more. These people that their buildings have collapsed, they have to start all over again and look at the public safety. And we must start investigation, we must start prosecution, because this involves public safety.
Exactly. It has a lot to do with public safety, and of course, to understand more about how these things happen, I mean, the technicalities that happen behind the scene that lead up to these collapses, and of course, what happens after that. What is the government doing to make sure that incidents like this do not keep happening? We're going to be having the chairman of the Council for the Regulation of Engineering in Nigeria Emergency Response Management, Koren ERM, in Anambra State, Sir Victor Meju. We're trying to get across to him about the phone lines because he's going to be joining us virtually. We've got a lot of questions for this man, because if there is a body regulating engineers, we need to understand how well this body swings into action to make sure that their men are doing what they should be doing while in the field. We also need to understand if there is a way that they regulate, so much so that anyone who supervises the construction of a building or takes up the supervision, parading himself as an engineer, is really an engineer by certification and qualification, and registered and known to the body for the sake of integrity. Because you go into the street, Tony, and everyone an engineer, as long as you can mix mortar and put it in between blocks and use that thing that they used to smoothen it to do it, shikina, give him 2-3 years, he starts to become engineer, he starts to supervise sites, you know. And that's why you come across certain buildings and you start to ask yourself, when you supervise it,
exactly.
You go to some urban settlements, I mean, some of the 5-story high-rise buildings, and you're asking yourself, my architect or my engineer, whoever drew the plan of this house, and then, I mean, it may sound like a joke, but you totally understand what I am talking about. And then you find out that some of these engineers, they just, you know, in a bit to satisfy the client and also to maximize some level of profit, they end up making a mess of everything and endangering public safety. While we wait to connect to him, Franklin.
Okay, yes, why we wait to connect with him, because this issue of building collapse, of course, like Tony highlighted, of course, he was able to give like a comparative analysis of what it is in Lagos, what it is in Anambra State, and what is in Kano. Perhaps when we are doing this, might be able to consider the terrain of these places, because in one way or the other, of course, the terrain also impacts on this.
Definitely.
But one thing I want to find out is this, because I understand that when it comes to the issue of construction, there are certain standards that need to be maintained. Take, for instance, if you're going to build any building that is going to be up to 2-story building, it requires that you must do soil testing. What they call, I think they call it either geotag or something. That's something they call it. You must do these things. So the question is, how many of people who go to do this very construction, how many of them engage on these things? Then the issue of approval. The approval agencies, do they get to do due diligence to ensure that all the standards are followed whenever somebody wants to do any construction? Because sometimes what we do see is that people have a way of bypassing this very process. And because I know Mr. A or know Mr. B, once I get to the office and tell them this is what I want to do, and because I'm connected, the person gets express approval without all this due diligence being done.
Even without being connected.
Exactly.
The men at the grassroots collect bribes.
So it puts a lot of question on this issue.
I think, just like you mentioned, we have such texting in every state. There's no state that has no soil texting. I think they are called geotechnical subsoil text. Okay.
All right. Engineer Meju is here with us. Engineer Victor Meju. Good morning, Engineer. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Very well. Good morning. How are you?
I am very well, thank you. Good morning. You are live on Udala Radio 104.7 FM, and the program is the Polity. My name is Chisom Franklin Ebuka, you already know, and Dr. Olisa Mbeki is also here. And now we are having this conversation with millions of Nigerians listening to us right now in the country from the diaspora, thanks to our presence on the internet, Facebook, YouTube, and of course on Radio Garden. And I'm very sure that you know about the building collapse that happened in Oka yesterday. There was also one that happened in Akbaka the day before yesterday, and there have been tens and hundreds of them happening in different parts of the country in recent times.
Very well.
All right then. So this morning we'd like to start off with knowing what it actually should be in terms of the engineering angle. As an engineer, we'd like to know what the rules of engagement are, because most of these buildings, more often than not, they will tell you there is an engineer who is taking care of this site. What exactly is supposed to be the duty of that engineer from the on-go or from the onset to prevent things like this from happening?
All right. It is a holistic approach because your question is very diverse. First and foremost, no building will stand alone, will stand perfectly well with one man called an engineer. No. A building or a structure or a construction must be done by a team of professionals. Now that's what we are advocating. An architect, it is the role of the surveyor who first of all go and map out the plan and do the setbacks. Get the elevation. And then with that, he gives you the survey plan. With the survey plan, you proceed to an architect, a qualified registered architect, who will design and conceptualize the building, give you the architectural, the texture, tells you how the problem line will be, tell you how the building will look like. And then you discuss with him how many stories you want to have, and what you want to have in it there. He will do the design, the beautify the structure, and then takes it to a structural civil engineer, who now puts the beams and the column. That is the building, makes it stand. Especially when it's above one floor. You must do the resulting calculation and make sure this is the resulting moment, and this building will stand. So you cannot do that. And when he finishes, he goes down to a town planner who will come and do the setbacks. And then he will tell you the building starts from here, ends from there. They will do the map out. The next is you to hand over to a builder, already start qualified builder, who will not take up the building itself. He starts the building. The engineer is there always to make sure that this is the calculation, this thing is here, the strip volumes are here, the beams are here, the discs are here. It is a concerted effort of a team called professionals. When that is not done, the result of what happened yesterday is what you expect.
All right.
Yes.
What do you actually...
most often is what you see on the side, is that we see purification of parts. People who have been doing medicine now turn to call themselves engineers. Because they can set a block and it stands. First, second, third, and then he assumes he can do it. I felt for client, if you approach the engineer and he says, I'm going to do this build at a certain fee, he said, no, this is high. I have somebody who can do it less than that. And then he will go and meet the same man who knows how to set block. Parts and so okay, don't buy 50 block, let us start. Buy 10 bags of block, let us start. As you're building, you will bring him more. You end up spending triple of what he has told you. And that is exactly what you see yesterday in that other play. That's the challenge we're having. But the most worrisome is that the development control agencies in the state are not taking this thing as serious as possible. Because it is their responsibility to ensure that every building, having passed through process of approval, must ensure there are state-to-state monitoring, state-to-state supervision, and state-to-state level of approval. Attention must be given to the foundation. When that is done and you're up for DPC, approval will be given and ask you to continue. And if what you have on the ground cannot take more than 2 floors, they will tell you no. Because the design stage must state from the soil test, must tell you that this soil cannot take more than 2 floors. If you must take that, this is the condition. And then you do a rough foundation or you do a pile foundation. Not to just set blocks and set up building. You see, we have to put these things in various perspectives. You see, people need to take responsibility. We're enough of this every day. Let me tell you, as long as rain continues to fall here in Anambra State, more building will collapse even tomorrow.
All right.
A woman jokingly told me on this when we came for inspection. One old woman said, "No, Oga, engineer, it is better for us to pay for and live for this old house we are sure that stay for 30 years and will not collapse it. Than to go and pay 1.7 million for a new house, which we are not sure." It sounds like rhetorics, but that's the truth.
Well, engineer, you have pointed out a lot of very salient points.
And that's what I want to tell you. The challenge we're having is the clients.
The clients are the challenges that you are having.
Yeah.
Well,
The client, see, well, that's what you call client syndrome. You don't have money to set up your building, and you want to embark on it not because others are doing.
Okay, I think I need to come in here, engineer. Are you with us?
I'm with you.
So I said you've actually made a lot of salient points, and a lot of persons would more often than not bypass all of these stages when you talked about surveying down to the architectural design, and then the structural civil engineer coming in, and then the town planners coming in, the registered builders now taking up the responsibility of setting up the building. But when you take down the responsibility to the client, I'd like to ask, if the clients do not see engineers to cut corners with, would they be cutting corners? And are there really bodies that are out there, I mean probably in current ERM or in other agencies that are supposed to mitigate this, would I call it, or like you called it, client syndrome? Why are there still people out there who keep falling for them? Because if there are no engineers who buy into what they are doing, surely it wouldn't continue.
And that's what I'm telling you, with due respect. They are not engineers. They are quacks.
So how do you root these quacks out of the system? Is there a mechanism put in place?
Let me tell you my experience in Onitsha. When I came to see the building at Onitsha, and I asked and I made the fire, I said I want to see the engineer in charge. Lo and behold, who came was a lawyer. A lawyer has turned to become an engineer in this circumstance. Why? Because this client is in UK, he has done first, second building. Now he now thinks he can mix cement and sand. He's the one telling them how many cement and sand to mix at Onitsha. Tell me how that building will sustain. That's a time bomb. He cannot go and meet the engineer because he doesn't want to pay the professional fee. He chose to do it himself. And that's the challenge we're having. There are offices for engineers everywhere. Even there are current offices here. There are NSCs in everywhere, even on the China. They will not come. They will prefer to go and meet old men. You know what they did on this? They will tell you, look, this building was done by someone in 1980. You will go and reproduce the same plan and tell you, I've done this in 1980, I can do it now. You cannot stand, they are not the same structure. Even they are, the cement you use in those days are not the same cement you're using now. The qualities are depreciated. The number of time bars, the size of the road in 1980 is not the same as now. A lot of things have changed. That's another even area I don't want to go into. because Nigerians need to carry out to SON. SON need to take the job serious. Some need to go to the market on it and raid on it roads industry. The standard of roads are depreciated. When you see 8 mm, it's as if you're using it in a needle. And Nigerians are not speaking out. Government are not speaking out because some of them are culprits.
Okay, engineer.
It's time for us to take this serious.
Okay.
There's a need for proper advocacy. You need to promote enlightenment.
All right.
You need to organize a symposium. People need to know what to do at the right time.
While those are quite
We need to revisit the extant law.
Can you hear me, engineer?
When a building falls collapse, we recover that buildings. We take over that land. Take government to recover that land.
Stringent measures, stricter
And penalties. Section 18 of Current Act provide for penalties. We need to effect arrest. Police need to do their job. People die and nobody said anything.
Okay, engineer. We understand your advocacy for stricter punishment, stringent measures, but I have a question for you. You said these people bypass structural engineers, registered builders because they do not want to pay. Do you think it is probably because these professionals are overpriced? Okay, let me not use the word overpriced, but are the charges too much? Is there a regulation on how much that service is supposed to cost? So much so that people can afford it.
Of course. The fee, the remuneration fees are there. You can even negotiate. That's not the idea.
Like how much?
Are you there?
Have no money. Let me tell you, let me give you an example. In Onitsha, when the DLGS collapsed, I was the chairman who investigated that building for state government. You see, it is so appalling that such a structure held by a very big, renowned church, very revered church in Olisa metropolis, foundation was done by a different engineer. When he finishes, they let him off. Why? What was the reason? And then blockchain people pass, they can continue. And then to another level again, they let him off and continue. That is not the practice. That is not the practice. Our people need to understand. You can't get a doctor to do a surgery. You remove the fibroid. After removing the fibroid, you let him off and get another doctor to do the pregnancy, do the CS. No.
Okay, so Angela, can you hear me?
I can hear you very well.
Okay, so I have two questions, and I want to make the questions very quick. One is this: I believe that you have visited the two sites of the collapse incident, one in Noka and one in Onitsha. So the first question is for you to tell us what you found out. The one that happened in Onitsha, we learned that one person died in the process. Then the one that happened in Noka, we are not sure whether anybody was trapped or if anybody died. So you tell us what you've been able to find out and what was the emergency response like in Noka yesterday. And then the second question is the issue of Koren. What is Koren doing to ensure that these incidents of building collapse is curbed, or are you just leaving it to the government's regulatory agencies for them to handle?
Well, what you asked me, let me take one after the other. First and foremost, your Onitsha incident, just like you reported, there was one casualty, very painful, very, very painful, because that's an old building. And I can attest to you right away that if our government responsive, the adjoining building must be brought down because the two are standing on the same plane. The same contractor, the same engineer that did it. The two buildings just collapsed. So there are every tendency or possibility that the other the one standing may also do the same. So what I advise that they do is quickly to go to Anambra State material testing and call for non-destructive tests to be conducted in that building. Otherwise, it should be brought down. It's a time bomb, and it can come at any time, just like this one. Ebuka Forest area is a unique area, not because of the topography and the nature of the soil we have there. So stricter measures has to be put in place. If I have my way again, state government should ensure that non-destructive test is conducted in all the buildings standing there. All of them. Now, before it gets late. That's my suggestion. Then for Oka, as of the time we left, there was no excavation. The reason is that the development control, whose duty it is to do that, is still finding their feet to do the needful. You see, when we finish our panel recommendation, one of the things we highlighted is that the state government should establish a development control, a central development control for the state, where a responsive team should be established. For instance, we should have a standby excavator meant for this kind of emergency. We should have tankers meant for this kind of emergency. Once there's this kind of toil, they move. They don't need to beg. The operators are there. The state controls it under a separate unit. It is strictly for the dog. Not waiting for excavators working somewhere in Onitsha to come down to Oka, or somewhere in Polity to come down to Oka to help, or a private excavators. This is not practicable. As I speak to you, they are still looking for. Again, we don't know whether there is somebody who is trapped or not, because the engineer and the client and the people who used to come there, all of them are on the run. I don't blame anybody, even though we may not have the teeth to bite. Now, what I'm saying, in a nutshell, is that we are going to revisit the sites this morning and see what we can do. More samples have been collected and we want to test. We're waiting for state government to reactivate the panel to do proper forensic investigation on the cause of the failure. So I cannot tell you stricto sensu what is the major cause or causative effect. Until that is done, I cannot give you in details.
All right.
Medical analysis or technical analysis or what has transpired.
All right. Thank you very much, engineer.
But on the look of it, it is a foundation problem.
All right. Thank you very much for your time this morning. I think the last question I'll be throwing to you right now would be about your mention about substandard building materials being out there. Is there something the government is doing to make sure that these substandard building materials are kicked out of the system?
As I'm telling you, it's a duty of SON, Standard Oil Nigeria.
Yes, you mentioned.
And then the state government need to do that. Need to call the federal government. It's a federal government agency. Our current is also a federal government agency. We need to come down together. We need to put effort together to put an end. See, even in the state government, sometimes you see dolomite on the road instead of proper chippings. They go to Abakaliki and get, I don't know what they get. I said it's chipping. It's not chipping. Nobody's testing these things. In Nigeria, everything goes. Anything goes. You go there and you see the kind of stone they use in the construction, doing the foundation. And nobody asks why. Nobody stopped them. In practice, we're told that you cannot use any water you cannot drink to cast foundation or even to cast beam. Any water you cannot use. But you go to the site, see the fetch water, and nobody's asking anything.
All right.
It's as poor as that.
All right.
What you saw yesterday on display was just like a sand. very dusty, to show that there's a poor cement to sand mixture. Very poor. And nobody supervised.
Nobody supervised. Thank you for all of those things you've pointed out. I recall you said something about a stage-by-stage supervision by developmental control agencies in the state. Why do you think that these developmental control agencies do not work as often as they should, or as well as they should? Do you think they have manpower issues?
Well, I don't need to go into that because I know that it means shooting with myself on the field because I'm part of the system. I know that there's a deficiency of manpower.
Okay.
I need to tell you, there is. And that is why at the panel we advocated that a separate unit called one-stop shop should be set up to help the state government.
Okay.
A separate unit, either you establish a development control or a one-stop shop unit drawn from all the professionals.
All right.
Industry.
Thank you very much, Engineer Victor.
I appreciate it.
We'll definitely have time to take a look at things like this again in the coming days, and of course, look at the progress report, what your agency is doing to make sure that things like this are forestalled before they even happen, and probably swinging into action to make sure that from the developmental stage, there is actually no room for things like this to reoccur.
God bless you.
God bless you
the
too.
challenge is that you have a role to play, and that's advocacy and enlightenment.
That's what we're doing
People
already.
need to know. Those men in Onitsha should know that they can't go and be asking people to come and build when they don't have qualification to do that.
Definitely. All right. Thank you, Engineer.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, gentlemen. That was Engineer Victor from Koren ERM, and we've been talking about some of the reasons why we keep having building collapses in different parts of the country, not just in Anambra State. Apaka had a building collapse on Wednesday, Oka just yesterday. But of course, we're going to be shifting grounds now to go look at some other things, because yesterday some buildings were demolished in Lagos. I am talking about 19 buildings demolished at the new Mandela Plaza within the Trade Fair complex in Lagos. This was something that was sanctioned by the Lagos state government, and of course the demolition was carried out with tight security, convoys of trucks from the Lagos State Task Force, Rapid Response Squad, and other tactical teams stationed around the plaza. And of course people were restricted from getting into the plaza. Some reports say that some traders also lost valuables, goods worth a lot of money. Traders did say that the buildings were all valued at about 150 million naira each. Some other person said that this is because the government doesn't want companies or developments there. But the truth of the matter is that the Lagos state government has done this, and a lot of questions have been asked about warnings. Were the traders alerted that this was going to happen? And if they were alerted, why did they wait till this happened before the whole idea of we lost things here started coming up? Why weren't these things saved before this demolition happened?
I guess when we talk about demolition, we're talking about markets now. We're not talking about residential houses.
Yes, it happened in the plaza, in Trade Fair.
That is it. And
more like what's it called, plazas now?
That's what I'm saying. That in most times, government give notices that they want to relocate a particular market to another place, either because of the new design they want for that very place or some adjustment they would want to make. I'm even aware that those who are trading at Computer Village in Ikeja, they have been asked to relocate. I know many of them, they are trying to still engage the government to see if they can still remain there. Remember, most of these markets in Lagos are dominated by Igbos, no doubt. But you asked before the demolition, were they giving warnings? And then we have it on ground that they were giving warnings. But those notices or warnings that were given, were they enough? I mean, talking about the time and duration, sometimes for you to ask somebody to relocate, it must be more than a year so that the person will make good plans, because you have to build another plaza, so you have to build another this, sometimes at least 1 year, but it can be like maybe 2, 3 or 4 years, telling them that within this period in time that this will happen. The question should be, did the Lagos government, the Lagos state government, did they give them adequate time?
You know why I asked you that question initially, Tony? It is one thing to give notice we are going to demolish. Some of the persons who spoke to the press said there was no sign of demolition. Two different things. If I tell you I am going to demolish this place and you're waiting till I give you signs that I am going to demolish, I mean, it is you.
No.
With
There's
things.
nothing like sign. Once you are being given notice of demolition, what it means that you have within that period to vacate.
Exactly. And
so
then they
there
said
will be no sign again.
this place has been used since about 2000, but there is no state approval. And so, without state approval, what exactly were they expecting? Is it a case of negotiations? Because from what I understand, these negotiations for that spot to be used was done with the federal government. Where are we lacking synergy here? Is it the state government and the federal government not working together and then these traders being affected? Or is it a bypass of the necessary grassroots authorities leading to stuff like this happening?
Government should understand that it is there because of the people, and the welfare and the security of the people shall be the primary responsibility of the government. If you want to relocate somebody from where they are for whatever reason, either they bypassed approval or the approval was not done by a government or there is no record to that approval, it is also incumbent on the government to show them where they could either pay or have their market located. You have to point to them where they could get it and then make necessary engagement. It's more like redeploying them from where they are to another place. When you ask them to vacate without giving them any place to run to, it means that you have taken away from them what usually should have been sustaining them, and that's not the primary responsibility of the government.
Okay, so let me come in here because from what I've gathered so far, there is no clear evidence that a notice was given based on what Galea has on even an aide to the governor in Lagos State. He spoke on this yesterday, and he didn't mention that there was a notice given. But there were some traders who were interviewed who said that they sometime got notice long time ago, but not from state government. Trying to put
They
out
are still negotiating.
Exactly, and trying to put out the facts that we know that is out there. But on the side of the state government is saying that these buildings were demolished because they are illegal development structures without approval from necessary bodies.
That's just one of the reasons.
And that some of them were defective. And they also mentioned that some of these very buildings were built on setbacks and drainages. I also spoke with somebody in Lagos, and I'm just going to read what he sent to me. I'm talking about somebody who lives in Lagos. I'm going to read a part of what he sent to me regarding his own observation. He said that he was at that market some days ago, and when he got to that very market and he saw how some structures were put up, that he told the person he went with that some of these very buildings are going to pull down in the near future, because he was wondering why people in that very trade fair market was, or rather people were selling off available spaces in that very market, selling it off indiscriminately. I know there was a time it happened at the main market, some places where people were not supposed to build, and all of a sudden for the whole erecting structure. So he said that he observed this very thing, that it was going to happen, and according to him, that he believed that what was happening over there was out of breed. Where you have market leaders who want to make quick money, and somebody wants a space, the person goes ahead to sell space without any approval, and the person goes on to erect structures. So when government now wants to bring sanity, that's when we now begin to see structures that are not with approval. But where I thought government is, why does government always wait after the deed has been done before they now come for enforcement? Because I believe that there's no structure that comes up in any state that agencies do not know about, unless if the agencies choose to ignore. Because I know that they have the foot soldiers who go around on daily basis to look at some things and even report where these developments are springing up. So why would government wait all the time after people have been there? Maybe structures have been put up, people have gone in there for businesses, and maybe after 4 years or 5 years, government now comes to say we want to recover. That's why I said that very question. Why always coming at the 11th hour? Why can't we need places in the port?
I think when you are, because we are talking about these 19 buildings at New Mandela Plaza Trade Fair that was demolished, and then you ask the question why the government always comes at 11th hour to do this demolition. The most important thing is the fact that, just like I've always said, we have government at all time trying to expand and then plan, reclaim some areas and then use it for development. Developmental program is something that is continuous, but at times we've seen situations where government of Lagos State, though, have been mostly found wanting because people are reading ethnic meaning in this. There's no doubt. I remember that there was a time, sometime around, if I can remember, we had 39 buildings in the Etiosa local government area. I think Lekki Aziz. They were marked for demolition sometime around May. With indefinite quick notices issued. And then if you look at that, people tell me that government is actually targeting some people. But we saw what happened sometime around May again. We had shanties, we had unapproved ones, government of Lagos State marked them for demolition. And then you can also recall that sometime in mid-2025 that we are about 13 buildings in our Joy Estate, I think Rockville Street area, they were demolished. But then the fact remains that the government of Lagos State said that they violated building codes, proximity to Murtala Mohammed International Airport perimeter, exceeding height limit, and lands acquired for public and airport use. These were reasons they gave when government demolished about 13 buildings in Ajao Estates. But in all of this, there is still underlying tone. People are reading ethnic meaning, saying that in all of these demolitions, it has been found that buildings occupied by a particular ethnic people, like people from the southeast, has always been marked for demolition.
Yeah, some persons have been saying it on X.
Okay, and they have been saying that, and they are saying that it is something that this present government of Sanwo-Olu is consistent with, that they never experienced such during the time of Ambode.
Let's look at the merit of the matter, Tony, because if you shift it to the government of Sanwo-Olu, is it an ethnic thing or the man who is willing to do the right thing? Franklin, you pointed out that the person who spoke with you said they have been given notice a long time ago. So is it these previous administrations, knowing that what is being done is wrong, but dilly-dallying, playing to sentiments, Tony?
I think for me, if you look at this demolition, government of Lagos said that these buildings were put there without approval.
And some of them are already defected. Some of them are not properly done.
That's what I'm saying. Apart from defection, they say that you got no approval, even when
some of them are built on the wrong places.
That is it. So we must tell our people.
When you speak about approval, sorry to butt in there. When you speak about approval, some persons are simply going to thwart it to mean, oh well, we did not allow them to build here. The reason why they are not allowed to build here, why was there no approval? Because this place is supposed to be a waterway. This place is supposed to be a road extension, as against people just selling off and building.
That's the point. The point is this: if somebody begins a building without approval, it is the duty of government to stop such process at that infant stage. Allowing the building to have stayed there over many years and come back to say you are bringing down this building because they have no approval, unless you're expanding the road. If there is a road construction, people will understand that why these buildings are affected, because there is a road construction or road expansion going on. But without those things visibly seen, and you come out and tell them that you have no approval, this and that, nobody will take it lightly, because you were there in the first instance. But it is not a justification for people to go and start building without approval. But I think it requires thorough investigation to find out exactly why is government of Lagos State pushing for this. For crying out loud, our people have been paying greatly for this. Each building, according to the report, is valued of at over 150 million naira. It tells a lot, and this is not the first time. I've been recounting the ones that we have witnessed in the past, and it will continue. The thing I know is this: Lagos State government under Sanwo-Olu is making plans to reclaim so many land from the Igbos.
Is this an ethnic thing?
I don't know. It's making plans to reclaim land from Igbos.
Let me come in here.
Sorry, dear Franklin. When you say they are making plans to reclaim lands from the Igbos, are they making plans to reclaim lands because of ethnic bias, or because these lands belong to the government and the government has plans for these lands?
I think it was under the same government they started changing street names. Remember the street names they changed?
So you think it's an ethnic thing?
Yeah, purely the street names were purely ethnic, but most importantly, it's left for the government to defend itself, to come out and say it was not ethnic, but people are reading ethnic meaning into it. But it's now left for the government to come.
You have just read ethnic meaning.
No. I did not read any ethnic meaning. I'm just trying to let you know the records. The records, you change streets. It's just more like the wish cries at night and the baby dies in the morning. So you begin to suspect. But the point is, it's left for the government to come and say, this is this is that, this is why we're doing what we're doing. But if you look around, if you go to Ikeja the other time, you remember what happened to P2B, where all of a sudden his own building, his brother's building was demolished, was pulled down, and he asked questions. He said he has his documentations, he has his papers, and till date, the same person that went to court, no person announced, and the same Lagos State government hasn't done anything about it. It is quiet about it, hasn't said anything. So these things are pointing towards one thing, but it's left for the government to defend itself.
All right. So if there was no ethnic meaning read into this very thing, I would have been disappointed with Nigerians, because it was expected. We know how there's been this very bad blood between Igbos and Yorubas, especially in Lagos. This issue of no man's land, this have been. So it's been there, and anything that happens in that Lagos state, whether there is ethnic leaning to it or not, it must be read into it. For now, as it goes, in fact, for a long time to be, until we'll be able to do the proper healing which you're supposed to do. Now, why did I say this? On September 17th, we know of the fire incidents in Lagos in two places. The one that happened at April Land Tower, and then the one that happened at Emad Plaza, the one that is behind Mandela's Taiwo Street, Lagos Island. I'm going to mention the one that happened at Emma Plaza. I watched a video where somebody ran a commentary, showing the kind of destruction that was brought on traders because of that very fire incident. And the person who was writing the commentary was saying that this is what happens every year. That every year, Igbo traders in this place, that they suffer this kind of destruction. And he doesn't know why it happens. Guess what? In less than 1 minute in that same video, the person he interviewed said that this is the very first time it's happening in that very market. He has been in the market for close to 15 years. But this is the very first time he's witnessing that. So what I'm telling you is that there are people who will always go that very way. But what has been my concern is this. When government over time has not been able to inspire confidence in the people, to tell people that this is what underlines our actions, every action of the government becomes suspicious. That's why I keep on saying that every action of government must be able to inspire confidence. It must be seen to be done with altruism and in good faith. Anything devoid of that we keep on reading meanings that might be factual or unfactual in anything that happens.
All right, then we're going to go over to political matters right now, because the AEDC has directed Atiku, Obi, and others to actually come correct. They have asked them at the caucus meeting they had yesterday to denounce membership of the various political parties where they still belong to and come to the ADC. Tony Mbeki, what do you think of this? I mean, it's the ADC became the vehicle for the coalition in July this year, and we've been looking at things being done in the past concerning stabilizing the ADC. Talk about the registration of ADA, which they agreed yesterday to shelve. But also, the last time that this conversation was brought up, the likes of Obi said 2027 is still far. With the ADC coming up now to make this bold call, what do you expect in the coming days?
I think they had told us before now that some of their members who have not registered, they have their reasons and which they accepted. Many of them have one project or the other in the respective parties where they're coming from, so they want to complete a process. They have started with their parties, and once that process is completed, they will be registered. But we've seen that done, the by-elections, and then we'll still have a number of state gubernatorial election for P2B, who has a candidate is supporting, and for now, asking their members to get registered is another thing. And why these members do not want to get registered? Because they are weighing their options. You have Obi, who is also weighing his option, and they have Atiku. Atiku, I learned, has not registered in ADC, so he's also weighing his options. So they are monitoring the developments, and we have another like 14 parties that have been registered by INEC. So you have other, there are so many of them, so the options have been expanded. So in this case, I guess what they're doing is that they are trying to calculate and weigh their options before getting into anything, without having in mind the mistakes they made in the past. So ADC crying, come and get registered. Some of these people will tell you we are members of the coalition, but when it comes to being a card carrying members of these political parties, they will tell you I'm not a category member of this party, but I'm a member of the coalition. What does he speak? And people are saying, come and clean. You can't be here or here. But this is politics. They are calculating their times. They are weighing their options. They are looking at those involved. They are looking at the pendulum where it's going to swing. So these are part of games. It's part of politics. So for now, if they get into ADC now, APC as a party will now know, oh, this is where they are. And then they may begin their own, you know how they do it. They may begin their own game. So they don't want to be pigeonholed in one party so that you cannot, for now, hold them to a standpoint. I think that's what is going on.
All right, then we keep our fingers crossed to see what they eventually do in the coming days, and we're going to quickly go attend to some commercials. When we come back, we'd open up the phone lines.
Udala Radio, 104.7 FM.
Quality bread, Wendy's bread, for your family breakfast. Wendy's bread, I'll pack it on the dosialo. Wendy's bread, mama papa they like Wendy's bread, not your challenge and do. Wendy's bread, even children they like Wendy's bread, Wendy's bread, Wendy's bread, get it better, tasty, we go sweet your belly. Wendy's bread, Wendy's your bachichama. Wendy's bread,
Wendy's bread, your tasty bread. You can contact us on our official address, Second Business Park, Enugu Road, GRA, beside Misha, Anambra State. We also have another branch at St. Michael Plaza at Tandy Road. Also contact us on 070-1149-1571. Wendy's bread, your tasty bread.
Wendy's bread.
Udala Radio, 104.7 FM. Seriously authentic.
The time you've been waiting for is here now. Join the conversation. Put a call across to 0803-221-6973, 0828276694. And of course, when you put a call across, turn down the volume on your radio set, go straight to the point. And of course, you can also drop a comment on Facebook at Udala Radio 104.7 FM. But Tony, real quick, the senator representing Enugu East Senatorial District, Mr. Calvin Chukwu, defected to the APC. I think he was in the Labour Party. A lot of defections have been happening lately. Anambra had its own fair share over the weekend. We woke up to seeing defections here and there. 4, if I'm not mistaken, across LP, 2 LP, 1 YPP, 1 APGA in Anambra to the APC. And now we have 1 from LP to the APC in Enugu. Word on the street is also that a governor is set to also migrate to the APC.
I think it tells you a lot that how the politicians think. Look at Kelvin Chukwu of all people. Remember his brother was killed and then they gave him sympathy votes. That was exactly what happened. When I tell people, vote for people based on capacity and competence, leave sympathy, leave emotion, they may not even understand. But the point remains that I remember Kelvin Chukwu, for somebody we know, we saw how P2B carried him on his back. And you know how he went around calling people to support him. I think it was a race between him and Chimaroke Namani, and there was attempts to make sure that Chimaroke Namani does not see, you know. Would
you really blame Kelvin Chukwu for leaving the LP? Last I checked, the LP is like a madhouse.
The point is, remember how he became he had never ever in his life dreamt of becoming a senator. We know the circumstances that led to his emergence.
Isn't this a problem of us dwelling in people's pasts against the reality of the day? Because Kevin's reality is that he's now a senator, and another reality is that the LP cannot get its act together.
Apart from the fact that LP cannot get his house together, we still have many senators who are still members of LP, and he has his own, if you can call him a child of circumstance. That is, his political emergence is that of child of circumstance.
So
but
we
know very well
of circumstance doesn't stop one from deciding to step out.
Yes, he has every right to defect. But I'm just trying to say that Chimaroke was deliberately stopped because of the way he opposed P2B. But the point remains that what is Chimaroke is in APC, Kevin Chukwu is now back in APC. So what's the difference? Why stopping Chimaroke just to bring somebody you know that he's going to go back to APC? And if you look at the margin, you find that he scored, I think, 9,000 plus votes, and Chimaroke scored about 48,000 votes. But just like I said earlier on, he was a child of circumstance because his brother was actually being projected until the brother died. And then they said, okay, since this man has died, let's bring his, a close relation, give him sympathy vote, make him this, make him that, so that today Chimaroke will be laughing at everyone. Oh, you'll stop me because I was a member of APC. Okay, now the person he put in board has also joined. The governor is joining. Have you not heard? Okay, Mba is joining APC.
Word on the street.
Okay, so a little addition, because for me, I disagree with you that he has the right to defect. Because as long as he still has the mandate of Labour Party, and they right there in the constitution, they said as long as you are still on the party that sponsors you to the house, if you are going to defect, of course, if you defect, you have to lose your seat. So that is where I stand. But
is he the only one to defect? Have they all lost their seats?
I'm not talking about whether he's the only one to defect or not. What I'm saying is talking about the ideal thing. Yes, there is crisis in Labour Party that you might look at and say, oh, do I say have political future in this very party? I know that he might have considered that. Then now he has gone to the APC, maybe thinking that that is where he might have the landing and get the ticket. Good and fine. But what I'm saying is, these people should learn how to be disciplined. If he had finished his term and decided to defect to APC, I don't have any qualms.
Let the constitution be firm.
But for the fact he is on a party's mandate, and as it stands now, the law of the land has not been amended. So anybody who has party's mandate to move to another party, he broke a law. For the fact that we do not have a strong judiciary that will stand tall at one time and say things the way as they should be, that is not an excuse for anybody to be moving from one party to the other. Of course, where are we going to? We are headed towards one party that people have talked about a long time ago. And what does that signal to Nigerians? We have no options.
Oh well, when you spoke about what the law says, I was going to ask you, a law that you put in place without appropriate punishment, what do you expect
apart from that? Labour Party has no leadership, because as we speak now, if they want to contest any position, INEC, I don't think INEC recognizes anybody. So that was why INEC did not recognize them in the last by-election. They fielded no candidate because of Nenadi Usman, and then you have faction. But then, so on that ground, Chukwu can defect, because once there is a division at national leadership, he can defect. But I'm saying your brother Oyibo Chukwu died sometime around February leading to the election, but the people said no, you know what, because your brother was so close to P2B, and then let's bring Kelvin. Kelvin, if all the Labour parties should leave, Kelvin should be the last person to defect.
Okay, today, let's hear you.
Defected. The governor is joining APC.
Good morning.
Shoot this in a minute, 30 seconds. Yes, we can hear you. Go on.
Good morning. My name is Odaze. There is more dramatical politics, the parties and all that. More drama, more surprises. Good morning, House.
You're welcome.
Olisa Mbeki, good morning.
You're
my
welcome.
lady, good morning. And my friend, good morning, Franklin. I'm concerned about one of my vocations. I'm an architect and an environmental design artist. We are not much in this country. We are not many, especially in this part of the country. The building issue in Nigeria is rather pathetic. But the Lagos issue, we must put it aside and begin to have a political look into that, because it is like a way they place the Igbo people that are so eager to go shift, use the market, shift, do the market, clear the land, develop the area, shift again. We must give it a political look some other time. But generally, your engineer that spoke was on point. You You see, in this part of the world, especially here, I'm sorry for that Onitsha, this Onitsha here. You know, a man that has a lot of money comes to you, a contractor. He doesn't think of the topography. He doesn't think if there is a storm drain there. He doesn't think of the land soil form. And then the contractor, who happens to be a nation, starts building a house. And you talk about 16 mm and all that. Yes, we have a ladder here. We had it in Warri. When you build and they say that the road is not good, you go there and they measure it. Everything we have in this country except honesty and rule of law. Government institutions, rather than state, that must stand by the side of every building. So if you're going to be a church, white hall, pillars and all that, there must be a structural engineer that starts from the bottom to up. Then if it is like here, like up, down there, here, you have a lot of water pockets there. So it's not the normal foundation you're going to put there. But here, the government itself will assign the land, knowing fully well that it's not good enough for a story building. Take money, come back, market bad. Then the contractor again goes and says, this is the market value. The owner says, they do them like that, they go. That is the cause of building collapse in this part.
Alright, you should be rounding off now, Daisy.
In Abuja, most of us participated, and you hardly hear building collapse. Then, in Abuja, because the people are very religious watching the construction work. But here we don't come and say Rolumodia until we begin to tell ourselves from homes, especially the rule of law. We don't have it. When we talk of rule of law, this is politicians. Here it is in our construction industry. It's a shame.
Alright, Daisy, we have to let you go so that others can have a chance to air their views. Good morning.
Good morning, Chisom. Good morning, Franklin. Ahmad, Honorable Speaker Tony Mbeki.
You're welcome.
This is the voice of Honorable Udala.
Go ahead,
from
please.
Kingdom. But I'm calling from name now. See, concerning this issue of demolition in Lagos, I think it is true. I don't know how I can describe them. Any space in market, they will go there and find a way to put something. For instance, let me give you an example from one day here, Mosquito Park in Lewu. There are certain times the governor came here. I say, this is from Wuli Obiano. Imagine many buildings that are not in plan. So we are constructed beside, on the top of the gutter. And they mark them all that they will demolish them. They are here to Oka with a bag of money and bribe many of the commissioners. There one commissioner called Commissioner Madbuko. During his time, I even accused him on radio. And what the excuse he gave us is that they are far behind. If for him, he will demolish it. But there's some people who came behind the van. And those structures are still there in Lewu here. They happen in many markets. I want to learn to follow the rule of law in building. Any place you go there, pay money and put structures that are not planned for. That's the one. Coming to the issue of this failed building, I had the experience on my own. You see, if you send one person to do something for you, be careful. If you don't give me a close monitor, he will dupe you. A boy that will give money to bought cement for us. When he buy all those cement, and he sold some 100 bags at, for instance.
We should be rounding off now.
When he go there, he carry only 50 bags. Come here.
that mode giving us.
We can't hear you anymore. Please go straight to the point. 0803 221 6973 0803 827 6694. Please go straight to the point. Good morning.
Thank you, Chisom. Good morning.
Good morning.
Ebuka Franklin. Good morning to all of you. This is Monday Johnson, and I'm calling in from Onitsha.
Go ahead, please.
I want to know the demolition in Lagos State. Mr. Speaker, can the government demolish someone's property without obtaining permit from the courts? I want to know. Did the Lagos State government receive such permit before its demolition? We want to know, because some participants, we need some explanations so that we can be able to actually know. Then, secondly, is there any difference between being a member of a political party and a member of a coalition party? Calling Obi and the others to denounce their parties. And Obi, even after yesterday the meeting was held, Obi tendered apology, and also he's shown his, full support as a member of that coalition. I know that Rodi's Vivo of Lagos State, that ran as a flag bearer of Labour Party, have denounced his membership in Labour and have fully joined coalition. Then I want to know, please, why these people? Because I know, to the best of my knowledge, that the law did not permit one to be a member of two political parties. So if these ones are still being a card-carrying member of Labour, PDP and others, and is showing their support to the coalition, then we need to know.
All right, thank you very much for your questions. Johnny, he wants to know what the law says about demolition without any court document, and of course what the law says about being into political parties.
Let me start with the one of political party. One, we have political parties, but for one to say that a particular party is a coalition party is still talking about a party. For one can say that a party is a progressive party, and then if you talk about progressive party, you can mention those progressive party. So there is nothing like coalition as a party. What we have is party A, party B, but you can name a particular party coalition party. So what it means that Obi is not a member of coalition party, but is a member of coalition. He is a member of Labour. We must distinguish these things the way they are. Coalition is never a party, but being that a party came as a result of different coalitions, you can refer that party as coalition party. So is he be a member of coalition party? The answer is no. Is he be a member of the coalition? The answer is yes. So you can say for now he's a member of two political parties. He is a member of coalition, which is not a political party, but he's still a member of APGA. But one would ask, why? Sorry, he's a member of Labour. Now the question is, has he any right to attend coalition party meetings? If he does, that is what we call anti-party activities. You can't be in Labour Party and be attending coalition party engagements. It's anti-party activity. So unless you guys are talking about coalition, maybe which is non-denominational, non-partisanship, it is maybe we can attend. You cannot be a member of Labour and be attending that of APC engagement. And then your second question, you ask, has government power to demolish buildings, especially when they believe it has gone or it has infringed on the laws? There are some statutory powers that gave government, like if you come to Anambra State, they have fiscal planning law of 2013 that made the building regulation of 2015. So it gives you permit this, that, and some of the things that the current member talked about. All the parties, both the tilers, both the mason, both the architect, both builders, is a complete team. So they actually supervise and oversight on some of the things. So if you go beyond bounds, you can go to court and seek redress. If the government brings down your building, you can seek redress in court, and court will look at the laws and then find out upon which of them did you act on what you acted. So government is out to protect the public welfare, so they can act maybe on the ground of safety. So they may not wait to get a permit from court, but when it involves safety, government is mandated to act immediately. But if you feel that what they have done is wrong, you can seek redress in court.
All right, then let's take one or two more calls, then head over to Facebook. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, Franklin. Dr. Tony Mbeki, good morning.
Yeah, welcome. It's good to have you.
My name is Johnson. I'm calling from Onitsha.
Go ahead, please.
My heart is bleeding. What Lagos State is doing to people is alarming. It's not the first time, it's not the second time. What are the Igbo do to Yoruba? Is what I'm trying to ask. Yeah? Last time they said the other time in the market, what are the Igbo do to Yoruba? It's too much. If they don't want people in Lagos, they better tell us they don't want people in Lagos anymore. Every time we want to see demolition, I just people.
Okay. Thank you for your contribution, Franklin. Let's head over to Facebook.
Okay. Let's see what we have here, because we have a couple of them.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
My name is Ebuka. I'm calling from Onitsha here.
Go ahead, Emeka, make it snappy.
Okay, just a little contribution I want to make. As regards to the people that are involved structures and the rest of them, I just want to say that we are just at the mercy of God. Why? Because they make laws sometimes, but some of those laws are not effective. You can see some of the people that will come along the places where they are building, and they will say to stop work, this and that. You would think that they are coming there to look into or to make proper investigation of what is going on there. But at the end, you find out that what they are coming there to do is just for them to get their own share of money. They will say to stop work, but as soon as you go to stop up with them, you will now still continue. Even though the place is very close, blocking the road or not, they continue. Why? Because they are spotted up. So I don't know, it's just what that led us to listen.
Okay, so let's go to our Facebook page. Obina Williams Lamparosino Okata says someone who has not hidden his hatred towards the Igbos. The moment Igbos in Lagos started thinking about bringing their investment home, knowing that Lagos is not safe, the better for them. With me, Chisom, you are correct. The right is that Labour has left so many politicians, even Peter Obi, our principal, so there's no need for Tony blaming those leaving. Where I have concern is the party Senator Chukwu defected to. There's no way he can contend with Chimaroke Namani. What happened to Balozibo would definitely happen to him. He should have chosen another party. More liberal from Owerimo State said, let the beat go on so that they will release Nani Kano. Amara Michael Anocha says he's reaching us from Mo, and he says on the demolition going on in Lagos, this is pure hatred on Igbos, whether you guys like it or not. You can call it whatever. The earlier our people realize that we are not welcomed in this empire, better for you to look for other alternatives. And then Tino Biez is watching from Electrical International Market of Bosi, and then Elekigwe says Igbo should come back home and stop developing other regions. Let me say something now. Even each time we talk about Igbo should come home and develop our area, we quite agree. But the thing is, it's not like the way the people do see it. Tony, I don't know if you saw the story of Air Peace. Air Peace is about to set up aircraft servicing facility. It's going to be in the southwest. Now, people have been questioning him, why would you cite such project in the southwest, whereas we have places in the east? And the man has explained all the efforts he has made to ensure that such facility is sited here in the southeast in Enugu. and all of them were frustrated. So would he keep on blaming people who see environment that is conducive for them to side business, and they know that the sources and the money is there, and they cite it? Would he keep on blaming them, saying that whatever business you want to cite, it must be in the southeast? And the man talked about how he met the government of Enugu State, began the process. Government was cooperating, but people of certain areas in Enugu said they would not concede to give her the land, even when he was willing to buy the land. I don't know, maybe to Tony saw the story too.
I think I saw the story because he said he wanted to build that very facility in Enugu, but he was frustrated when it comes to land acquisition and land purchases and all that. I think Enugu State government would have waited in there if the owners of the land are willing to sell, because you can't just force anybody to sell his land because they want to build a world-class facility. But Enugu State government could have come in there and find a soft landing for him or give him a common ground. It is the duty of government to woo investors, woo them to your state, bring them to your state. And it's important that most of us that are saying Akuruno, yet at Uno we are having some Umuoma, we are cheering up and calling them heroes. That is contradiction in 10 minutes. More like hypocritical.
You know Gaius he said all his businesses are moving out from the south because his life is under threat.
That is just the problem. Can we?
No, Gaius's issue shouldn't even be brought on the table, because when Gaius supported the madness at home, nobody knew that his business was under threat.
That's why we're saying that you don't ride a tiger.
But my concern is that government has
and one day to turn back and bite you now.
Government has a role to play to make the states in southeast, investment friendly. We must bring these people. There's no doubt. And then for Kelvin Chukwu and for Enugu State Governor Peter Mba, who is on the verge of defecting to APC, Sullivan has gone, Chimaroke has gone, and many of them have gone. In fact, Buruburu is also on the verge of joining. So Enugu is becoming APC. Could it be the reason Kevin Chukwu joined in the whole thing? So that tells you a lot. Politics is a game of interest. Don't be emotional about politics. Don't be sentimental about politics. People join political parties based on their interests, and if somebody is pushing his own interest and trying to demarket you, know that it is a market competition, market forces. So don't be so emotional about it. I think it's much I have to say.
You're right there, Franklin. Are those all the messages we have?
Yes, they're the ones we have on our Facebook page.
All right then. Thank you, gentlemen, for your contribution this morning. Tony, are those your parting shots?
All right then, yeah, exactly.
All right then, Franklin, what are your parting shots?
Well, in as much as we didn't have time to look at it, the issue of voter registration, because when you were talking, you read out the distribution, and you will see the comparison between the southeast and then some other parts of the country. Like if you're going to compare the number of registered voters in the southeast and then compare it to what we have in the south and other parts of the country, you wonder. Like take for instance, southeast has online registration of 76,493, but in terms of physical registration, we have 22,991. Then south has 280,904. That's for online registration. Then for physical, they have 27,690. Then you now go to southwest, for instance. Southwest is doing 1,640,000 online registration, and in terms of physical, they are doing 158,627. Yes, Anambra State is not doing this very ongoing registration until after November 8th gubernatorial election. That's when Anambra is going to start. But put all the figures we have from other 4 southeastern states, we're lagging behind. And Enugu is the last state on that distribution. And I keep on asking our people that a man see because Neke walking Nkokwa, and then decide to buy. You decide you buy when the man saw you buy. You can say that. I have said it that why politicians of Nigeria have not taken Southeast seriously when it comes to power negotiation is because they don't see the numbers here. They don't see the number. The moment we're able to raise our numbers in terms of political strength, anybody who wants to contest for presidency in Nigeria will come to the Southeast to negotiate. But since we don't have the numbers, they will go to those who have the numbers and keep on negotiating with them. If they want to give appointment, they will start from there. If you want to start projects, they will start from there because they are cutting that section in the next election. This is pure Nigerian politics. until we show up our numbers. If an MI can MI, Ndijanana, can get the quiet. So when you're Jinana, you got one nickel. A one nickel is on wiggy. Mom Nispa, Buntata, Aquapagana.
All right, quite an interesting take here. And of course, I'll be joining my voice to that of Franklin to say, go get yourself registered. If you're an eligible voter, better go do it. You can do it virtually, right? Before you even get to the stage of going to the polling unit, to the registration centers to do your biometrics. Get this done. This is your one ticket to being part of the decision making as long as Nigerian politics is concerned. And please don't tell yourself that you're not a politician. Politicians make all the choices. Your votes do not count. How do you know your votes do not count when you do not even have the right to vote? You see, you are the one disenfranchising yourself, and your votes actually can count if only you decide to make them count. And politics is the lives that we live. I promise you, decisions made by politicians affect literally everything, down to almost the quality of the air that we breathe. This is not even up for any argument. The Polity is going to make a return next week. Until then, my name is Chisom Chinedu. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Good morning.